Are you noticing more of those little memory slips lately? The kind you brush off with a smile and call senior moments? You walk into a room and pause because the reason you came in evaporated. You look at a familiar face and need an extra heartbeat to pull up the name. You start a sentence strong, then lose the exact word you wanted and feel it dangling just out of reach. If that sounds like you, I want you to take a deep breath, because what I'm going to share today is calm, practical, and hopeful. Memory does change with age, yes, but there are specific things you can do to support your brain. Some of them are small, some of them are simple, and one of them is so fundamental that when people correct it, they often say, "I feel like myself again." That's what I want for you, a steadier mind, better focus, and the confidence to trust your memory again. I'm Dr. James Adler. For more than 2 decades, I've helped adults navigate the changes that come with getting older. Stronger hearts, steadier balance, better sleep, and yes, sharper minds. And I've learned something powerful. Your brain is not a helpless passenger in the aging process. It responds to what you give it. Your habits, your routines, the fuel you choose, the way you move, the way you sleep, the way you connect with people, and it also responds to key nutrients that keep its wiring intact. One of those nutrients becomes harder to absorb as we age. When it drops too low, it can quietly steal clarity, energy, and mood. And you might blame getting older, when the real issue is something you can address. Today I'm going to walk you through that vitamin, how to recognize the clues when it's running low, how to talk to your doctor to check it properly, and what to do next so your brain has what it needs to keep working the way you want it to. Let's start with something simple that explains so much. Your brain is a miracle of electricity and chemistry. Every thought, memory, and feeling rides along tiny nerve fibers wrapped in a protective coating. Think of electrical wires in your house. The copper carries the current. The plastic insulation keeps the signal clean and prevents short circuits. Your nerves are the same. When that insulation is strong, signals move quickly and cleanly. Words come when you reach for them. Names snap into place. Conversations feel easy. There is a vitamin that helps build and maintain this protective coating. It supports red blood cell production, helps your nerves transmit signals efficiently, and plays a role in your energy and mood. The vitamin is B12. Here's the catch. As we get older, most people absorb B12 less effectively. You can eat a good diet and still fall short because it's not only what you eat, it's what you absorb. Stomach acid tends to decrease with age. Certain common medications, like acid suppressors for reflux or metformin for blood sugar, can interfere with B12 absorption. Some people develop a condition where the stomach stops making a helper called intrinsic factor, which B12 needs to be absorbed in the gut. And for many, these changes are quiet. There's no dramatic alarm bell. Levels drift downward over months or years, and the early signs look like everyday life. A little more brain fog, a little slower recall, more fatigue in the afternoon, tingling or numbness in the hands or feet, feeling down for reasons you can't quite name. Do you see how easily someone could miss that and say, "Well, I'm getting older," when the truth might be that the brain's wiring isn't being maintained the way it used to be? The reason I'm spending time on this is that when B12 is genuinely low, getting back to healthy levels can make a real difference. People tell me they can track conversations better, they feel more steady on their feet, their energy is more even, and the world looks a little brighter. Now, I want to be careful and honest. Not every memory concern is about B12. The brain is complex, and there are many reasons someone might feel forgetful. But B12 is common. It's testable, and it's fixable. That's why it belongs near the top of your list when you're thinking about memory after 60. So what do you do practically? The first step is not to guess. The first step is to know your number. Ask your clinician for a B12 blood test. Simple, quick, and informative. If your doctor is open to it, 2 other tests can give a fuller picture: methylmalonic acid and homocysteine. Without getting technical, those 2 can flag a functional B12 problem even when the basic number looks okay. Why is that important? Because different labs use different ranges, and what's normal on paper isn't always optimal for you. Knowing your number and how you feel gives you something to track and something to improve. The second practical step is to look at what could be lowering your B12 in the first place. Make a simple list of your medications and bring it to your appointment. If you're using long-term acid blockers for reflux, or you're on blood sugar medications, ask your doctor whether those might be contributing, and whether there are safer adjustments or monitoring plans. If you follow a vegetarian or vegan diet, it's smart to plan for fortified foods and discuss B12 with your clinician because plant-based diets can be low in it. If you've had stomach or intestinal surgery in the past, or you've been told you have pernicious anemia, that's important context. You see what we're doing? We're not just patching a problem, we're understanding the why, so your plan is tailored to your life. Now let's talk about how people get B12 back to healthy levels. Food matters, and for many people it's part of the solution. B12 is naturally found in animal products, fish, lean meats, eggs, dairy, and in fortified foods like certain cereals and plant milks. If you eat those regularly and you absorb well, that may be enough to maintain good levels. If your test shows you're low or borderline, your clinician may suggest a supplement plan. There are different forms of B12 available. What matters most is the approach that works for your body and your medical history. Some individuals do well with an oral or dissolvable form. Others, especially if absorption is an issue, may need a supervised plan that starts more intensively and then shifts to maintenance once levels are solid. The message is simple: there is a path, and it can be customized. But here's where I want to connect the dots in a way that really supports your memory. 12 is a pillar, not a magic wand. Your brain thrives when several fundamentals line up together, the way a garden thrives with sun, water, soil, and time. Add B12 where it's needed, and then align your daily rhythm so the vitamin can do its job well. That means steady blood flow to the brain, a calm nervous system, and deep regular sleep. Think of these as the delivery trucks and repair crew for your brain. If the roads are open and the crew is well rested, work gets done. How do you open the roads? Move your body, gently but consistently. I'm not asking you to become a marathon runner. I'm asking you to choose a simple, repeatable rhythm, a 15 to 20-minute walk after breakfast or lunch most days of the week. That single habit helps your circulation, your blood sugar, and your mood. Movement carries nutrients like B12 where they're needed, and it signals your brain to keep building and repairing connections. If walking doesn't work for you every day, swap in a few minutes of chair exercises, light resistance bands, or gentle tai chi. The goal is to say to your brain, we're still using this. Keep the wiring strong. How do you calm the nervous system? Practice brief, focused breathing. Slow inhale, slow exhale. For 2 or 3 minutes when you feel scattered. It sounds almost too simple, but it lowers stress chemistry, which is good for memory. And how do you give your brain the deep, regular sleep it needs to consolidate memories? Protect the hour before bedtime. Dim the lights, cool the room, avoid heavy meals late at night, and keep a consistent sleep and wake time. If you need to get up to use the bathroom, try shifting more of your fluid intake to earlier in the day so your nights are quieter. These small adjustments support the mental clarity you're working toward. Let's bring this together with a plan you can start today. First, decide to measure, not guess. Write yourself a simple note, B12, methylmalonic acid, homocysteine, and bring it to your next appointment. Second, scan your life for B12 thieves, long-term reflux medicines, certain blood sugar medications, low intake if you avoid animal products, or any conditions that affect your stomach or intestines. Third, build a tiny movement habit after a meal today. Not tomorrow, today. Even around the living room or down the hall and back, 5 to 10 minutes counts. Your brain likes patterns, and this is a pattern that helps. Fourth, shape your evening routine so your brain can sleep deeply. Quieter lights, no news right before bed, simple breathing, and a gentle wind down. Now, a word about expectations. If B12 is the main issue, people often feel a difference when levels improve. Clearer mornings, steadier focus by afternoon, better mood over weeks. If it's part of a bigger picture, it's still worth optimizing, because memory is rarely about one thing. It's about a set of things working together. Oxygen, blood flow, nutrients, sleep, movement, learning, and connection. Connection is the last part I want to emphasize, because we underestimate it. When you talk with someone you care about, when you laugh, when you tell a story or hear one, You exercise memory. You ask your brain to retrieve, organize, and share. Isolation dulls that process, connection sharpens it. So think of social time as brain time. Call a friend, join a group, teach your grandchild a recipe, read aloud. These are not extras. They are brain training disguised as life. You might be wondering, what about other vitamins? Doesn't the brain need more than B12? Yes, the brain is a team player. Folate, B6, and omega-3s, among others, contribute to brain health. But I'm focusing on B12 here because its shortage is common after 60, because the signs are easy to miss, and because checking it is so straightforward. For many of you, this one step will give you clarity, either by finding something you can fix, or by crossing it off the list and moving on to the next most likely cause. Either way, you win. You stop guessing. There's another reason this matters. When B12 runs very low for a long time, it can affect not only memory and mood, but also balance, gait, and nerve sensation. People may begin to shuffle or feel unsteady. They might describe pins and needles in their feet or clumsiness with buttons. You can see how that could increase the risk of falls, and falls are not something we take lightly as we age. So by paying attention to B12 and correcting it when needed, you're not only supporting your memory, you're also protecting your mobility and safety. That's the bigger picture. Independence. Everything we do here serves that goal. Let me paint the day I want for you, not as a fantasy, but as a series of small choices. You wake up and feel rested because your evenings are calmer and your nights are less interrupted. Breakfast is simple and steady, maybe eggs with veggies, or fortified whole grain cereal with plant milk, or yogurt with berries and walnuts. You take a short walk after breakfast, just long enough to feel your breath deepen and your legs warm. Later in the morning, you read, or you call someone, or you work on a small project that uses your hands and your mind. Lunch is balanced and colorful. If you're supplementing, you take it as directed, consistently, the same time each day so it becomes automatic. In the afternoon, you do a few gentle stretches. In the evening, lights go down earlier, the TV isn't shouting, and you let your nervous system step off the roller coaster before you lie down. You've built a simple rhythm. Over days and weeks, your brain recognizes the pattern and settles into it. That's how clarity returns, not from one heroic act, but from small, repeatable acts that add up. Now, let's talk about red flags, because knowing them gives you confidence. If you or a loved one suddenly develops confusion, slurred speech, weakness on one side of the body, a severe headache unlike anything before, or a sudden inability to find words, those are symptoms that could indicate a stroke or another urgent problem. Do not wait. Seek emergency care immediately. If you notice progressive memory loss that interferes with everyday life, getting lost in familiar places, missing bills, changes in personality, talk to your clinician promptly. There are many causes of memory change, and many of them are addressable or manageable, especially when identified early. I say this not to frighten you, but to empower you. When you know what requires action now versus what can be handled with calm steps, you feel more in control. Back to B12 and your plan. People often ask, how quickly will I feel different if low B12 is part of my problem? Everyone's timeline is a little different. Some notice brighter mood or better focus within weeks of correcting a deficiency. Others see gradual changes over a few months as levels stabilize and the nervous system repairs. That's why it's helpful to track how you feel. Pick 2 or 3 everyday measures. Maybe how easy it feels to follow a conversation, how often you misplace objects, how quickly you find names, or how steady you feel on your feet. Write down a quick note once a week. Those notes will show you trends your memory might miss in the moment. Improvement likes to hide in plain sight. Notes unhide it. Another practical piece. Hydration. The brain is a thirsty organ. Dehydration can masquerade as brain fog. Many people drink less as they age, not on purpose, but because the thirst signal isn't as strong. Try this. Front-load your fluids earlier in the day and taper toward the evening, so you sleep without interruptions. Pair water with activities. Sip when you take your morning walk. Sip when you sit down to read. Sip when you return a phone call. You're not chasing a number, you're building a rhythm. Your brain will thank you. And let's not forget the joy side of this. We don't just feed the brain with nutrients and habits. We feed it with meaning. Learning something new is one of the most powerful pro-memory choices you can make at any age. Pick up a new instrument, learn phrases in a language your grandchild is studying, try a puzzle format you've never attempted, volunteer for something that asks you to organize and remember. Why does this work? Because your brain builds and strengthens connections in response to challenge. It doesn't retire, it remodels. Give it a reason to build, and it will. I want to address a quiet doubt that some of you might be carrying. What if it's too late for me? I hear that, and I want to answer it with sincerity. In my practice, I've seen people in their 70s and 80s make changes that clearly improved their daily function. I've seen couples learn how to support each other's routines, so both minds benefit. I've seen people who felt stuck reclaim parts of their day they thought were gone. Is every outcome the same? Of course not. But the principle holds. Your brain can improve its performance when you improve its environment. B12, if you need it, is part of that environment. Movement is part of it. Sleep is part of it. Connection and learning are part of it. You don't need perfection, you need direction, and you have that now. So here's your gentle, clear to-do list. 1. Schedule a conversation with your clinician to check your B12 and, if appropriate, methylmalonic acid and homocysteine. 2. Write down your medications and supplements and ask if any could be interfering with B12. 3. Pick an anchor walk after one meal each day for the next 2 weeks. Set a reminder on your phone if it helps. 4. Look at your evenings and choose one small change that makes sleep easier. Maybe dimmer lights, maybe reading instead of scrolling, maybe a warm shower to signal your body that bedtime is coming. 5. Choose one social or learning activity this week that asks your brain to stretch. Call someone, join something, start something tiny and new. A brief but important reminder. Everything we've talked about today is educational. It's not a diagnosis, and it's not a substitute for personalized medical care. Your healthcare team knows your history. Bring them into this plan. Share your questions and your goals. Let them help you monitor and adjust. That partnership is how you stay safe and make steady progress. Before we close, I want you to imagine one moment in your near future. You're in a conversation, and the word you want arrives on time. You get up to do something, and you remember why you got up. You tell a story, and you feel the thread of it in your hands, strong and unbroken. That feeling, that click of clarity, is what we're working toward. Not perfect memory, not the mind of your 20-year-old self, but a sharpness that feels like you. B12 might be part of the key for you. And even if it's not the whole answer, the habits you build around it will support your brain anyway. If this spoke to you, tell me which piece you're going to try first. Are you going to ask for the test? Take a short walk after lunch today? Tidy up your evening routine for better sleep? Share it in the comments. I read as many as I can because your experiences guide what I teach next. And let me know where you're watching from. I love seeing the community we're building across cities and countries. If you found value here, the best way to help me keep making these videos is to like this one and subscribe so you don't miss the next steps in this series on protecting your brain as you age. And if you're ready to keep going right now, I've made a follow-up video that walks you through 5 simple, evidence-informed habits that support memory after 60 foods, movement, and everyday routines that make a real difference. Click that next video, and I'll meet you there. Until then, take good care of yourself. Your mind is worth it, and so are you.